Today we're going to talk about dividing decimals by decimals. So it's very similar to dividing decimals by whole numbers. There's just kind of an extra step that we have to look at in terms of the divisor. So looking at our steps here, the step one is that our divisor must be a whole number. So I want you to highlight that right there. The divisor must be a whole number. That is the most important part here, and I'm telling you now, that's the part that most people mess up on. Okay, so it doesn't matter if you do all the long division right if your decimal's in the wrong place. Okay, the dividend though does not have to be a whole number. So you don't need to make both of them whole, just the divisor. So these steps we're going to look at over here. We're going to show you how we apply those steps and then move it into our actual answer there. So let's practice with just looking at these first three examples. We've got 8 and 972 thousandths divided by 1 and 6 tenths. So what I want you to do so you don't forget is to always highlight your divisor. So looking at this first problem, I'm highlighting the divisor of 1.6 or 1 and 6 tenths. This has to be a whole number. Right now it is not. In order to make it a whole number, I'm going to take my decimal, I'm going to move it to the right. Because if it's all the way at the right, that means it's a whole number. Well, I can't just do that and think that it's fine and now I can divide. If I move my decimal once in the divisor, I have to move it once in our dividend. Okay? But I can leave it there. I don't need this to be a whole number. So if it's moved once here, I need to move it once here. So I'm going to rewrite my new problem. 89.72 or 89 and 72 hundredths divided by the whole number 16. Okay, so our divisor here is a whole number. Let's look at it for this example. 94 and 56 hundredths divided by 12 hundredths. So again, first thing I'm doing is I'm highlighting our divisor, the number we're divided by. This one has to be a whole number. Okay, so I'm going to move my decimal over. Since there's two digits, I'm going to move it over once, twice, so it's all the way to the right. If I move it twice here, I'm going to move it twice here. So our new problem is 9,456, our decimal right at the end there, divided by the whole number 12. We don't need to write that 0 on the left. Okay? And it's okay that this one's whole. It didn't need to be, it's just that it matched up with the same amount of times. And then last, looking at this example here, highlighting my divisor. I'm going to move my decimal so that it's a whole number. Move it once, twice. If I move it twice here, I need to move it once, twice here. The problem is there's not another number that I moved it by. So whenever you have that empty gap there, we're going to fill it in with a 0. So the number that we're working with here is 70,340, my decimal at the end, divided by 4. I don't need those zeros there. So it just so happened that these two ended up being whole numbers as well, but it doesn't have to be. It's just your divisor that has to be whole. You have to match up the number of times that you move it here. So let's look at this first example. 17 and 4 hundredths divided by 1 and 2 tenths. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm highlighting my divisor. I need to make it whole, so I'm going to move the decimal over once. If I move it once here, I have to move it once in this problem. So our new problem is 170.4 divided by 12. Okay? Our divisor's whole, the dividend doesn't have to be. Now we're dividing by whole numbers. We know how to do that, so let's just set up our problem. Okay, so I set up the problem. Now I'm just going to divide. So I'm going to write my multiples of 12. You can use your multiplication chart if you need it. I'm going to write them on the side here. 12, 24, 36, 48, 60, 72, 84, 96, 108. And then I'm going to divide. 12 doesn't go into 1. It goes into 17 once. 12 times 1 is 12. Subtract. 17 minus 12 is 5. Next step, bring down. 12 goes into 50, 1, 2, 3, 4 times. 12 times 4 is 48. Subtract. 50 minus 48 is 2. Bring down. 12 goes into 24, 1, 2 times. We get 0. So we have a remainder for 0, we're done. My answer, though, shouldn't be 142. If my decimal was here, when we got our new problem, my decimal in my answer is going to be directly above that, okay? So in the next problem, we're actually going to do that as our first step so that we don't forget, okay? All right, so example 2. I'm looking at my divisor. It needs to be a whole number. And this one, I need to move it once, twice to get it all the way to the right. If I move it twice here, I need to move it once, twice here. So it's in between the 6 and the 4. So my new problem is 276.4 divided by 16. So my divisor is whole. It doesn't matter if the dividend is. I'm going to set up my problem. And I'm going to write my multiples of 16 on the side. 16, 32, 48, 64, 80, 96, 112, 128, 144. And then I'm going to start dividing. 16 doesn't go into 2, but it goes into 27 once. 16 times 1 is 16. Subtract. 27 minus 16, well, 7 minus 6 is 1. 2 minus 1 is 1. Last step, bring down. 16 goes into 116. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's too big, so 7 times. Okay? 16 times 7 was 112. Subtract. 116 minus 112. Well, 6 minus 2 is 4. 1 minus 1 is 0. 1 minus 1 is 0. Okay? And I forgot to do my decimal right away. So I'm going to do it now while I see that I'm moving on to the 4. So if the decimal in my dividend is here, the decimal in my answer goes directly above it. Bring down our 4. 16 goes into 44. 2 times, because 48 is too big. 16 times 2 is 32. Subtract. 4 minus 2 is 2. 4 minus 3 is 1. Okay, we have a remainder, and we have nothing to bring down. So in the past, we added a decimal, added a 0, but we already have our decimal value, so all I need to do is add the 0. Bring down the 0. 16 goes into 120. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, because 128 is too big. 16 times 7 is 112. And I subtract. 120 minus 112 is 8. I still have a remainder. I have nothing to bring down. I'm going to add another 0. 16 goes into 80. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. 16 times 5 is 80. 80 minus 80 is 0. So we finally got a remainder of 0. If you want to, you can round that. I'm just going to write this as the answer 117, not 117, and 275 thousandths. If you round, you would look at the hundredths place. The 5 would tell you to round up, so that would be about 17 and 28 hundredths. Okay? One more, and then you'll do the you try on your own. 475 and 1/10 divided by 9 hundredths. So again, first thing I do is I highlight my divisor. This one is the one that has to be a whole number. I'm going to take my decimal, move it once, twice to get it all the way to the right. In this one, I have to move it once, twice. There's nothing there, so I have to fill it in with a 0. So we've got 4, oopsies, 7, ignore that, 5, 1, 0. That's not a decimal, that's a comma. 47,510 divided by 9. I'm going to set up the problem. I'm going to put my decimal here at the end where it will be, which means the decimal in my answer will be directly above it. And I'm going to list my multiples of 9. 9, 18, 27, 36, 45, 54, 63, 72, 81. And then let's go ahead and divide. 9 doesn't go into 4, but it goes into 47, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, because 54 is too big. 9 times 5 is 45. 47 minus 45 is 2. Bring down the 5. 9 goes into 25, 1, 2 times, because 27 is too big. 9 times 2 is 18. Subtract. 25 minus 18. I'm doing this in my head, but if you need to borrow, you can't do 5 minus 8. The 2 becomes 1. 5 becomes 15. 15 minus 8 is 7. Bring down the 1. 9 goes into 71. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, because 72 is too big. 9 times 7 is 63. Subtract. 71 minus 63 is 8. Bring down the 0. 9 goes into 80. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times, because 81 is too big. 9 times 8 is 72. Subtract. 80 minus 72 is 8. Still have a remainder. We already added our decimal, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to bring down my 0. Okay? 9 goes into 80. 8 times again. 9 times 8 is 72 again. Subtract. 80 minus 72 is 8. Right? If I kept going, I'd add another 0. We'd have 80 again. It would go in 8 times again. We'd subtract 72 and get 8. So we have this 8 repeating. So I'm going to write my answer as 5,278.8 with the repeating bar over the 8. Alrighty, the you try problem that I would like you to do is 35 4/10 divided by 8/100, so 0.08. Go ahead and try that one on your own and get it checked.